This video covers Hours of Service and Qualcomm Training Part 3. We'll move from left to right to go over the various tabs. Let's examine the tab Clocks. This tab allows you to monitor your hours of service rules. When you get dispatched on a Canadian load, you'll be sent a message that'll go into detail of how the clock tab works. When you cross the Canadian border, switch your e-logs to the Canadian Main rules, not Canadian North. When you get back to the USA, switch back to USA rules. In Canada, we run on Canada Main rules. The next tab is Graphs. There's a graph for today and each of the preceding 7 days for a total of 8 graphs. They'll reflect the work that you performed for the last 8 days. By using this button, you can go back and see your history of each day by going back the previous 8 days. By touching any of the duty status segments, it'll bring up information recorded when you made that duty status change. For example, on this segment, it tells you the duty status is on duty, how long the segment was, what time you started it, and the city and state it was recorded in. Under each duty status, you'll find all this information. If you touch the Info button, you'll find the address of your logistics company or main terminal and your time zone. If an officer asks you for this information, just go to this button to answer his or her questions. The Daylog tab works like this. It's similar to the Graphs tab. There's a page for today and the preceding 7 days for a total of 8 days worth of data. You'll find a list of everything your duty status was changed. By touching that same button, it'll allow you to go back to the preceding days. Each midnight, Qualcomm makes an entry on your e-log to start a new day. It'll show the time as midnight, what duty status you're currently in, and the city and state you're located in at midnight. It's the same as turning the page with paper logs to begin a new day. Next is the 8-day tab. Your miles are recorded. The hours used column is to tell you the amount of time you've used in your 70-hour rule for each day. When you use the arrows on the right-hand side of the screen, you can go to the previous days, or go to the bottom of the page and go back to recent days. Logs request comes in handy during roadside inspections. During roadside inspections, the officer may ask for logs to be emailed or faxed to them. Select Fax, Email, then type in the fax number or email that was provided by the officer. Then hit Request. For roadside inspections under CSA, if there's a violation written on your inspection, and it doesn't matter if you get a ticket or not, that'll generate CSA points. That goes against your record as well as Prime's record. Our goal should be 0 violations for every roadside inspection. Some of the most common violations from roadside inspections are not having a paper logbook and not having an instruction sheet for the logbook. Even though you're using electronic logs, you still are required to carry a paper logbook in case the Qualcomm would happen to go down. Paper is only used if the Qualcomm is not working. The instruction sheet is inside the permits book in the left-hand pocket. These instructions show the officer how the logs work. No paper logbooks and no instruction sheet account for about 1/3 of our violations. Another common violation is not separating sleeper berth and off-duty. In other words, logging in sleeper berth when you're actually outside the truck, or just the opposite, logging off-duty when you're actually in the sleeper berth. There's 2 different duty statuses. If you're in the sleeper berth, log it as being in the sleeper berth. If you're outside the truck and not working, you should log your time as off-duty. Many frequent violations are not logging line 4 time while doing work other than driving, with things like fueling, vehicle inspections, preparing to be unloaded or loaded, checking in with the dock supervisor, taking off tarps, etc. That needs to be logged on line 4. Make sure during the roadside inspection that you're actually logging on duty during the inspection. Don't let the officer complete the inspection and then realize you've incorrectly logged it as off-duty. You must be on duty during the inspection. The next button is the Approve button. This is the tab that you go to make a correction on your log. You're authorized to make corrections on the off-duty status, the sleeper berth status, or on duty, not driving, line 4. However, you're not permitted to make any changes to the drive line. The Approved tab will reflect all the changes that you've made since the last time you approved your log, and we also strongly recommend that you approve your log each day. Here are different types of corrections you can make. For example, the sleeper berth time might be the wrong duty status, and the driver needs to edit. Touch the duty status to highlight it, and then touch the Edit button. The next screen will allow you to change the duty status by using the drop-down menu, asking why you're making this edit. That'll take you to some options that have predefined comments. These boxes are not required. You can use the drop-down and see if one of the comments fit, but it's not required. You've changed your duty status, decided you were going to put in a comment, and then you touched OK. This is a mandatory comment. You have to say why you're changing this status with a short explanation. And that's all there is to making a simple edit. Here's a way to make a change to a more difficult edit. It starts out the same. Highlight the line you want to edit, and then touch the Edit button. See the scissors circled in the upper right-hand corner? You don't need the scissors if all you're doing is changing the duty status. Use them if you're taking a certain amount of time and separating it into two different duty statuses. Maybe you stopped for fuel and went on duty to fuel. You got your fuel and then you forgot to change your duty status to off duty when you went into the truck stop to eat and shower. The scissors are used to divide one duty status into two. Touch the scissors and it'll take you to another screen. It'll be twice the area for entering information. Pick your duty status to enter. There's two places now for optional notes. There'll be a mandatory box you must fill out. It's for explaining the reason you're making the edit. If you don't put in a reason, it won't allow you to proceed. Once you've made your changes and everything is accurate, touch the Approve All button. Qualcomm will ask you if you're sure you want to change it. If you are sure, touch OK. All the information has disappeared from the Approved tab, and it's now located in the Day log. On the Day log, you'll find green check marks showing that you've approved it. Make sure and approve your logs each day. The last tab is the Load tab. This is where you go to see your information. Prime will load this information in Qualcomm for you every time you get a load dispatched. You'll see the Prime Load ID, Bill of Lading number, trailer number. If you had to switch trailers, Prime will enter that for you. If you're at a roadside inspection and the officer asks for your load number, this is where it can be found. We've done an overview of all the tabs, but we need to cover one more item. Let's log in as a co-driver. This will be a good review of how to log into Qualcomm. Go to the Log button and touch it to highlight it. Touch Add for next screen. Enter your driver code, followed by the letters QC. Then your password, which is your 4-digit payroll PIN. If it asks you about unassigned drive time, say no. Then wait until the screen changes to your driver code, followed by the letters QC. Then the screen will change to your full name, and that should take about 30 seconds. Once it changes to your full name, you're officially logged in. Anytime you log into Qualcomm, it will always put you on duty. Now we have 2 drivers logged in. Go back to the log screen. They must do this every time they switch drivers. Solos don't need to do this. Touch the Login tab. Next to Joe's name it says Active. Next to Sue's it's blank. The only time active status is used is to move a driver. Let's say Joe just finished his driving and he's ready for the sleeper berth. And Sue is going to take over driving. Sue must make herself active before she starts driving. She touches her name, then she'll touch Change, and then click OK. Sue enters her password and touches OK. Now Sue's the active driver. Another way that Sue can verify that she's the active driver is to look for a green dot next to her name. The green dot represents who the active driver is. As a solo driver, you should always have a green dot by your name. As a team operation, every time you make a driver change, you'll need to make sure the green dot is by the person who's driving. If you're stopped during a roadside inspection and you're driving with your co-driver status, then there's a good chance you'll get a ticket. If you operate a truck in a slip seat environment, when you don't always have the same truck, as you turn that truck in, make sure and log out, then log back in with the next truck. If the previous driver forgot to log out, log him out and then log yourself in. This is the permit book. Always have a paper logbook on your truck, available to show the officer, and always have in the left-hand pocket the instruction sheet. The officer will ask for these when you're stopped during a roadside inspection. We've examined how the electronic logs work at Prime. We believe in electronic logs. They make us a safer company. They allow us to stay compliant, and e-logs are here to stay. Let's all work together to make sure that we do the best we can. All of your information on Qualcomm is also available to your fleet manager. If you get a load that you're not sure you have enough time to deliver, discuss it with your fleet manager. Let's make sure you're not dispatched on a load that you can't deliver within their time frame. When you have a chance, visit your logs department. Meet your log auditor and get their business card. Make sure you have their direct telephone number. If you have any questions with your log, don't hesitate to call. This concludes Hours of Service Qualcomm Training Part 3.